So WrestleMania 35 happened last night, and we're going to recap the show here, kind of the ups and the downs. We're not going to recap every single match because some of them were pretty bad. Looking at you, Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio. But we'll talk about the whole show and kind of what WWE is going to do moving forward, or hopefully what they're going to do moving forward. First off, before we get into the actual matches, the show is insanely long. It is way too long. We're reaching the point now where it's almost a job. If you watch the entire show, pre-show, full show, everything, it took 7.5 hours, almost on the dot, from 4 o'clock my time to 11:30 my time. 7.5 hours. I've been to 3 WrestleManias, and I can tell you that sitting in your seat or being in a stadium for that long is absolutely brutal. It is impossible not to be tired, exhausted, both physically and emotionally. You're not just teleported into the stadium. I went to the WrestleMania last year when it was in New Orleans. We woke up, walked around the city, got to the arena about 2 hours before the pre-show, got to our seats about an hour before the pre-show. You stand in line, then you actually get seated, you maybe get a drink or some food, you watch the pre-show. You only get a few bathroom breaks. You only get a few food breaks and drink breaks. You're just tired. No human being can cheer for 8 hours long. And it's a disservice, really, to the fans because the matches that they're there to see, theoretically, the main event, the top build matches are later. So the matches that they're most invested in, they're most physically taxed and emotionally taxed by the time those matches even happen. And it's really obvious to tell on screen. I think WWE needs to go ahead and move back towards the 3-hour shows. Move back towards 3-hour shows with the best matches, the best superstars, the most important storylines, and that's what WrestleMania should be. Top babyface, top heel. It shouldn't be a 17-match, 8-hour extravaganza. Now, some shows are probably just going to be longer than others. If you have a booked show and you have a ton of matches, fine. But last night was a great example of some matches that just didn't deserve to be on the card. The Samoa Joe Rey Mysterio match, the Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns match. These matches, the Carmella R-Truth dance break. There's a ton of matches in there where they just don't need to happen. They're just Raw matches. Drew Roman is a Raw main event. Bottom line. Nothing more, nothing less. AJ Randy, SmackDown main event. That's it. I understand the idea of wanting to put all your stars on the show. And AJ Styles is a star. Randy Orton is a star. I get that. But I don't think you need to pack 17 matches onto the card. And then give people like Batista and Triple H 25 minutes. The card was way too long. Way too long. So let's go to the actual show. So it starts off with Lesnar and Rollins. Kind of a surprise. I actually think this was really smart. Because they knew what they were going to get out of the match. They knew it was going to be a 7-minute, 8-minute kind of typical Lesnar match, super fast-paced, big move, finish, it's over. And this was a bit of a necessary evil to have this match and to get past this Lesnar era, and hopefully we're officially past the era. And I've talked about this before at length, where Lesnar has kind of held the title captive for multiple reasons. But one of the reasons is if you don't partner Lesnar with someone who's just as cartoonish as Lesnar, like Goldberg, The Undertaker, John Cena, The Rock, it's really hard for the match to kind of live up to the billing. And taking someone like Seth Rollins, who's just a wrestler, just a guy, to take him and to pair him with Brock Lesnar, the match loses a little bit of luster. So I think to go ahead and get it out of the way was a good move for WWE. It was a good way for them just to kind of grab everybody's attention, get this out of the way. Rollins going over had to happen, I believe, so that we can move towards the norm, towards the champion being on every Raw, the champion wrestling on every pay-per-view, the champion wrestling multiple people. I think this is a good move in the long term. I think that it was a little bit of a speed bump to get through and get over, but Lesnar's had his time for 5 years now, where he's been the top dog, the top build player. And now I'm excited to see what that division, or what Raw, I guess, will be doing with their top title. The match itself interesting. The angle where Rollins got beat up beforehand, I actually thought they were going to go ahead and stop the match, or not start the match. I thought they were going to never ring the bell. Rollins goes back to the back. We see him with medical personnel. He comes out a little later, beat up, makes the win even that more impressive. They kind of did that, just shortened it with not doing the whole go to the back thing where Rollins just gets beat up, gets the low blow to kind of reverse the momentum, and then curb stomp, and gets the win. So good match for what it was trying to do. Not a good match, but good storytelling, I suppose. And then we had a couple of big-time SmackDown matches, just straight up should have been on the USA Network. AJ Randy, boring stuff. Really, just not a WrestleMania match at all. Decently worked match. Did it have to be on the card? No. And we had the tag team match, the tag team championships. Usos retained. This was a cool match, I guess. Some good spots. It showed off Alistair and Ricochet. I'm not surprised they didn't win. I never thought they were going to be a tag team. I think they kind of had a little trial run where they just want to get them some main roster exposure before their singles pushes. I think we'll see Ricochet probably go to Raw. Well, he may go to SmackDown, but one's going to go to one show, one will go to the other, and they'll start their singles pushes. So I think they were a success when they came up as this tag team. I think they put on good matches, had good spots. They were really receptive with the crowd. So I think they're going to go off and do very successful singles runs immediately. I'm expecting that tonight with the Raw after Mania for one of them to become a Raw superstar. The first real match, the first real WrestleMania match was Shane McMahon and The Miz. This was a perfect WrestleMania match. Long storyline, a storyline that meant things. It had a lot of different pieces with Shane kind of turning heel, being the best in the world. Miz being a heel who had been done wrong, so he had kind of had a babyface role in this match. Miz's father brought into this. A lot was going on here. Good WrestleMania match. These are the kind of matches that WrestleMania is built upon. Back in the day, if this was a 3-hour show, fantastic start to the show. This would have been a great match for that. And the match absolutely delivered. Falls Count Anywhere, Miz and Shane went all throughout the arena, or the stadium. Huge spots everywhere. Shane McMahon, you knew you were going to see it. Fantastic match. My match of the night, as a matter of fact. So this was the match of the night for me. Kudos to Shane. Kudos to Miz. Beautiful storyline all the way through. The actual match itself, amazing. Shane took some gnarly bumps. He took a bump off of a golf cart that I don't even think he should have or was supposed to do, where he bounced off the golf cart, then fell about 6 feet to the concrete floor. Crazy stuff from Shane McMahon. He is quickly becoming a WrestleMania, like Mr. WrestleMania type guy, where he always delivers. Miz, great match for him. I said, not an easy match for Miz, because Miz doesn't usually like to take big spots, and he kind of shies away from that, and he has in his career. So it was cool to see him mix it up. Fantastic. The ending, I'm cool with it. Having Miz dominate the last 10 minutes of the match, show a little bit of that mean streak, and then Shane get the cheap win. This was a match for Miz that could propel him into that championship fold. This reminded me a lot of the Randy Orton Cactus Jack match, where you saw Randy Orton kind of go to that dark place, and Randy Orton get really violent, and it kind of pushed his career to be where he had that mean streak, and he had that ability to get violent. And to have Miz kind of break that threshold now, maybe Miz's mean streak or that violent streak that now we see he has, maybe that will push through this barrier he has in front of him. So great match for both these guys. A+, match of the night. Well done. Women's tag match is up next, the tag team title match. I love the Iconics. I think they're fantastic. They're not great in the ring, but their character and what they're doing is perfect. They're perfect. They're a true tag team, which is hard to find nowadays in the WWE. And I thought they should have won the tag team titles initially. Kind of had this little heel run, and then Sasha and Bayley get the rub here at Mania, and it's a feel-good moment. So they kind of flipped that, gave Sasha and Bayley the titles first, then had the Iconics win at Mania. Love it. Love it, love it. It's one of those matches where it should have been on the card. Maybe this might have been a good pre-show match if we were going back to that 3-hour, 4-hour show. Love the Iconics winning it. Fantastic job. Good job. Good writing. Love those two. If you don't follow them on Instagram, Do it now. They're hilarious. They're Aussie. Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. So now we go to the WWE Championship match, Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan. This match was super intriguing because even me sitting there, I was saying there's no way they're going to actually do this. There's no way they're going to actually do Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. If you would have told me this a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, I would have said no way in hell. Kofi Kingston just isn't that guy. They're not going to put him in that spot. WWE has never had an African-American WWE champion. So for Kofi to be the first one at WrestleMania, I don't see it. I thought that Big E should have turned on Kofi beforehand, like on SmackDown, and cost him the title shot. And then Big E kind of is the biggest heel in the company. Him and Kofi have a thing. And then Big E challenges for the title. And Bryan could have fought someone else, Samoa Joe or someone else, for the actual championship at WrestleMania. But they decided to go with Kofi. Gave Kofi his moment, and it was a good moment. It was a beautiful moment. The match was good, of course. Everyone knew the match was going to be fine with Kofi and Daniel Bryan, so not surprised at all about that. Him being champion is crazy, man. It's really nuts when you think about it. When you look at Kofi's career, he went from never being a single star or a single superstar. Even in the New Day, he's not the biggest star. Big E is usually the most over, the most boisterous, the biggest personality. Sometimes Xavier is the biggest personality, but it's never Kofi. And for Kofi to do this at WrestleMania in about, 5 months, they probably put this all together. Really crazy stuff. With no Royal Rumble tie. Usually when you have this situation, it's because a SmackDown superstar like Jack Swagger or Del Rio or whoever wins the Royal Rumble, and then they kind of walk their way into the match. This Kofi thing was relatively organic, where it was just pure storyline, crowd ate it up, wanted to see him win the show. So to see him win it this way is definitely kind of an old school look. And it actually worked, I'll admit. It actually worked. I had my reservations, not going to lie. But it seemed to be a huge pop and seemed to be a good call. So I think WWE probably hit the nail on the head on this one. I think that Kofi's reign will be really interesting. I still think it will set up a Big E turn. And we'll see Big E turn like Batista turned on Triple H, and this will propel Big E into being a huge star. I think Big E's ready to be a big star. I think he was on the cusp a little earlier in his career. I think this New Day thing has shown a different personality, a different side of him. And for him then to totally switch on that and to become a heel, to turn on Kofi and Xavier, would immediately make him, I would say, the biggest heel in the company. And so I'm excited for this. I hope that's the route they're going. I hope we don't see something hokey like Kofi Kingston just immediately lose to Daniel Bryan, or this is just kind of a payoff, kind of like a, hey, thanks for your service for 10 years. Here's the title, a la Kane or Mark Henry. So hopefully this is more along the lines of an actual true reign that will develop Big E and give us a really, really strong face-heel storyline moving forward. But the match itself was fantastic. Daniel Bryan, great guy to do this, to do the rub, to give Kofi his time in the spotlight. Fantastic. So this was probably my third best match of the night. First being Miz and Shane. Second being the main event. So this was right there, third, far and away better than the rest of the card. Those three matches really stood on their own, in my opinion. Quick note on the first African-American to win the title. Kofi, long time coming, to be honest, and to have an African-American WWE champion, obviously. And it's interesting because when you look back at it, the only person in my mind that really should have been champion or could have been champion was Booker T. Booker T was World Heavyweight Champion, but never was WWE Champion. And albeit they were on different shows and just kind of how stuff lines up. But before that, there really hasn't been anyone. And some people point to The Rock, but I'm not sure how Samoan and all that stuff works out. So, and Xavier Woods actually tweeted something about how Kofi's the first and how he's, changed the game for a whole generation. So I think people are kind of accepting that this is the first one. It's not talked about a lot because it's kind of a weird thing, like why is it taking this long? But there really hasn't been anyone that could break through and become WWE champion. I mean, you're talking about like Ahmed Johnson's, Virgil's, those guys just weren't there. Ron Simmons weren't there. So I think Kofi, Booker probably should have been the first, but Kofi's a good person to do this. He broke down some major doors, and this is a huge moment in just wrestling history. This is big. It's not getting the play it should for obvious reasons, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. So kudos to Kofi, and kudos to the WWE for just go ahead and pulling the trigger and making this happen. So Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship was next. Total squish. Didn't need to be in the card. Didn't need to happen. I don't know why it was there. I know Mysterio is hurt, but just leave it off the card. Leave it off the card. Do it on SmackDown. No need to even waste time on the entrances. Hated it. Reigns McIntyre, Raw main event match. I really didn't understand this match at all. Why give Reigns Drew McIntyre? You know, Drew McIntyre is supposed to be getting this push. He's supposed to be kind of this guy. Why feed him to Reigns, who just beat leukemia? You think Drew McIntyre is better than leukemia? Of course Reigns is going to win. So I didn't like this match whatsoever. Didn't really need to be on WrestleMania. Just trying to get Reigns on there is fine. But let Reigns beat somebody else. Let Reigns beat somebody that's not going to get a push. And if McIntyre's not going to get a push, then what have we been doing with him? Because he's been fantastic, and he deserves a push. Then we get Elias. So then Elias comes out, plays his guitar, plays the drums, plays the triangle, plays all kinds of the piano, and which leads to the Doctor of Thugonomics making his return. Kind of weird, because everybody was shooting for Kurt Angle to face Cena. And man, this would have made so much sense to have Angle face the Doctor of Thugonomics, which we'll get to in a minute. But this specifically, it was pretty cool actually to see Cena come out as the Doctor. And people ate it up. I hate to see Elias always get beat like this and always get jumped like this, because I think Elias is a true star. And I think Elias could be like a WWE champion true star. But this was kind of a feel-good moment. I don't think it's going to hurt Elias too much. It's not going to really do anything with Cena. It is kind of funny, though, how Cena with a hat on, Cena with his outfit on, looked like he could have been 25. But if you put him in a suit with his stupid hair, he looks all of 55. So really fun stuff to see him throw it back. And you wonder what his career would have been like if he would have stayed as the Doctor of Thugonomics. The Doctor of Thugonomics character probably would have allowed Cena to be a babyface than most of his career, but he could have much easier thrown some heel work in there, which he's never done as his current John Cena. So we may do a video, a little deeper dive on that. That's an interesting thought. But for the segment, fun segment, throwaway segment. But man, I think they may have wasted this return. And I'll tell you why in a second. So Corbin Angle, this had a lot of talk about they weren't going to let Corbin do this because of the reaction to it being Baron Corbin. And hold my hand up. I thought this was a big nanigans. I thought they were going to come out and Corbin was going to be hurt in the back, or Corbin wasn't going to be there, and Taker or Cena was going to come out. I never thought Corbin and Angle were going to actually wrestle. The fact that they did this Cena Doctor of Thugonomics thing, the fact that they did this makes it even more confusing. Because, man, what a beautiful way to tie the bow on Kurt Angle's career, where he's the one who gave Cena his first rub when Cena came out and interrupted Angle for Cena's debut on SmackDown. And that set up Cena for the rest of his career. And Cena immediately became a superstar after that Kurt Angle moment. So it would have been absolutely poetic to have it come full circle and the Doctor of Thugonomics be the one who wrestled Angle in his last match. And Cena and Angle are just two icons of the industry. So to have John Cena do that would have been perfect. Truly perfect. And man, just such a weird waste to use Cena, to use the Doctor of Thugonomics, but to do it 20 minutes earlier with Elias instead of just doing it with Angle. And then you see Angle lose to Corbin, which is even more surprising. What it sounds like in the back is that Angle was just adamant he was going to put it over Corbin. And I get it. I understand Angle wanting to lose in his last match, and that's fine. But Corbin is just not going to do anything with this. Beating Kurt Angle is not enough of a rub, and he already has heat. I think it's more along the lines of, hey man, you just suck, get out of my face, than true heat. I think he has more of that X-Pac heat, and people hate to say that because it's become kind of a trope where everyone has X-Pac heat. But I think Corbin truly sucks, and I think everyone knows he sucks. I mean, when he was general manager or commissioner or constable, whatever he wants to be called, that was some of the worst Raw in the history of Raw. It probably is the worst Raw ever, that little stretch. Worst ratings, worst everything. And it's not a coincidence that Corbin was on the show for about 60% of the show. So I think this is one of those things where you had an iconic person in Kurt Angle, who people love, for good reason, who I've met personally, shook his hand, not a big deal. But I think people wanted him to have a beautiful exit, a poetic exit. They wanted to see some ankle locks. Him losing is fine. But man, I don't know, man. I just think they really messed up with this. And, you know, I think it could have been a lot better. It could have been just sweeter for Kurt. Triple H Batista was next in a no-holds-barred match. This was a typical Triple H match where it went way too long, where every time Triple H wrestles, he's the longest match on the card. And, hey, Trips, that doesn't need to be the case. That specifically doesn't need to be the case when it's two guys like Batista and Triple H wrestling. This should be a bang, 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 hammers, pliers, sledgehammers, chairs, pedigree, Batista bomb, get the hell out of there. This shouldn't be a 25-minute match, especially when you count Triple H's entrances are about 10 minutes on their own. Way too long, but fun match. Probably the 5th best match on the card, somewhere there, maybe 4th, a distant 4th, but fun. The spot with the nose ring was great. Thought that was awesome. Triple H he used like 5 different tools. He used the pliers, he used the needle nose pliers, he used the sledgehammer, he used the chain. This guy was like Tim the Toolman Taylor, you know. So a little long, cool match. Batista looked good. Batista looked way better than the first time Batista returned and won the Rumble and faced Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. Batista looked like he was actually a wrestler. You know, he had his wrestling gear on. He just looked really good in the ring. And Batista's a good guy. Batista's a good wrestler, good career, obviously. And he gets some shtick because he dresses kind of funny and has a nose ring. But great job from Batista. Triple H, you know what Triple H is going to do. So as far as the match, cool. All good. 7.5-hour show. Don't need this to be 25 minutes long. This would have been a good match to have on a 3-hour show with about 7 matches. This would have been a good one. So, match was fine. Unfortunately, for the circumstances of it being so long, probably could have been 10 minutes shorter. But if they get back to that 3-hour show, a 25-minute Batista Triple H match is fine. So, a little torn on it. Good for what it was, I suppose. Just circumstantial. IC title was the penultimate match, Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley. This match was put here for a specific reason. That specific reason was this is 7 hours into the show. They know people are going to be sleeping in their seat. So what can they do to wake up the crowd? The Demon Finn Balor. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't know why they tell people the Demon's going to be there instead of just surprising it. You would think that if they just had Finn, like if they had Finn Balor is going to be wrestling at WrestleMania against Bobby Lashley, and then the match starts and the red swirl happens and the Demon music comes out, people would be more pumped than knowing like he's going to be the Demon. I never get why they do that with Finn. They always do it, and I feel like it's such a spoil because I understand if it's Raw and you're saying, hey, the Demon's going to be on Raw. Fine, you want people to tune in. But at WrestleMania, the Demon is not selling WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania. So specifically at WrestleManias, you don't have to say the Demon's showing up. People are already watching the show. People are already tuned in. Just let it happen. And if you're using Finn Balor to wake up the crowd, which you are, then really let them be surprised. That would wake them up even more. But the match itself, squash match basically. I mean, I feel like a broken record, but these matches don't need to be on the card. These matches do not need to be on a 7.5-hour show. You don't need to have squash matches. You don't need to have these Raw matches. If you want to have this match on the card in a true 3-hour show, let this go on first. Have the Demon kind of jumpstart WrestleMania. Have this be a 10-minute match, and then be done. But this version of it, D-, D+ maybe. And now it's time for the main event. This is it. 7.5 hours built to this moment. Biggest match of the show, the deserved main event. Rousey, Charlotte, Becky. Winner takes all. Raw Women's Championship, SmackDown Women's Championship. The entrances, Charlotte does the exact same entrance as Ric Flair did at the Great American Bash. Really cute moment, really sweet moment to see. Kind of interesting how they did Charlotte's package, then Rousey came out, then Charlotte came out. I guess they were trying to make it look hyper realistic with giving Charlotte extra time to walk to the ring. But maybe could have just went from the package straight into Charlotte's entrance. But ticky-tack. So both champions come out first. Joan Jett plays Rousey's theme live. Sounded fantastic, by the way. Joan Jett, congratulations. I'm sure they paid Joan Jett and probably 2 bottles of hot whiskey, but she did a great job. And the match, fantastic. Match of the night, the actual match itself, loved it. Let's fast forward a bit, shall we, to the end of the match, the finish of the match. This was scuffed as fook. Go look up scuffed in the dictionary. This finish is right freaking there. This is the definition of scuffed. Okay. So the finish happens. They put Charlotte through the table, which was scuffed, and that disposes Charlotte. But she still has to roll out of the ring. Stop. What you should have done was had the table outside of the ring, push Charlotte out of the ring or off the turnbuckle or somehow through the table on the outside. Charlotte is done. That eliminates her from the match. She doesn't have to roll out of the ring. The table isn't in the ring. You get a true break. That's what they should have done with that. Next step. Rousey goes for Piper's Pit. Okay. Rousey hits Piper's Pit. Becky rolls her up, basically. It's like a backslide. Ref goes to count the 3. Rousey's shoulders are obviously up. Aggressively up. Like both shoulders are up. Very obvious. Was this a botch? We'll get to that in a minute. Ref counts through it. Rousey pops up to argue the 3 count. Becky is busy having her Becky Lynch moment. She's busy having her Daniel Bryan, Miracle on Bourbon Street, Shawn Michaels boyhood dream moment. She's busy holding both titles, crying in the ring. Her beautiful moment. So now you have her beautiful moment that we have built to. This is the biggest babyface in the company, reaching the pinnacle of the business that before didn't even exist. The pinnacle of women's wrestling was not main event WrestleMania for both championships. So this is like the biggest moment for the biggest babyface on the biggest show. And you juxtapose that moment with Ronda Rousey standing in the ring protesting the count. You also have Corey Graves on commentary saying, I wish we had a more conclusive finish to the show. Interesting. Because even if it is a botch, you don't ruin Becky's moment with that quote on commentary. Now that may sound really ticky-tack, but think about this. Think about all the best calls in wrestling history, and they're all Jim Ross calls. But imagine Stone Cold Steve Austin beat Shawn Michaels. And instead of hearing the Austin era has begun. Instead of hearing all that you hear over and over again. Instead of hearing that, imagine hearing, well, Mike Tyson with a bit of a fast count there, but WrestleMania is over, so GG, Steve. It changes the whole dynamic. Imagine any call for a huge babyface getting his moment instead of the boyhood dream realized by Shawn Michaels. Imagine, well, they restarted the match, went to overtime. Yeah, kind of screwed Brett here, but hey, whatever. Shawn Michaels is champion, so here we go. See you on Monday. It changes everything. And as an announcer, you have a responsibility to not do that, to understand the moment. So maybe Corey made a mistake, or maybe this was the finish. Now, I've heard two stories, or two theories, I guess, about this moment. Theory one, this was the finish. And this was just the finish, and they did this to keep Rousey looking strong, where, yeah, she was pinned, but she really kind of wasn't pinned, whatever. Story two, this was a flat-out botch. The finish was supposed to be Becky tapping out Charlotte, and Rousey got pinned. The referee counted through the kick out, and it just kind of finished. I don't believe the botch because they set up the finish. If Charlotte would have been still in the ring and Charlotte would have been involved, I'd believe this. But they disposed of Charlotte. So you're trying to tell me that Rousey's supposed to kick out of this. They continue the match. Charlotte gets back in the ring. Then they dispose of Rousey. Then Becky gets Charlotte in the disarmor. And then Charlotte taps. That seems really far-fetched from what happened. So I'm leaning way more towards this was the actual finish, and it was just messed up. It was just awful. The next weird part about this whole thing was that a 7.5-hour show on the WWE Network that did not have any time restraints at all. Becky wins the biggest moment of the year. The biggest babyface of the year realizes her dream, finishes her quest. And how long do we see her with the titles? Literally maybe 20 seconds. The Carmella R-Truth dance break was longer than however much time we got with Becky Lynch holding 2 titles. Again, think about Daniel Bryan in New Orleans. We saw him, the confetti falls. We see him, yes, pumping with both belts on the tables with the crowd. We see him walking up the ramp. We see him around the ring. We see everything. We get full commentary. We get a full moment, probably 2 minutes worth. Becky Lynch, I'll have to go back and watch because I haven't rewatched it. I'm guessing from the second she got, and if someone in the comments below put how long from when Becky Lynch got both titles to how long the show ended, it had to be 30 seconds. So it also was weird that they just cut off of it. Just cut immediately. We got a few camera shots of Rousey being upset in the ring and out of the ring. And we got a few shots of Becky holding the title. But the iconic photos of Becky have all been from Instagram. They've all been from Twitter. The iconic shots weren't from the actual live show. So the finish to it was so poor. So poor. So poor. What they should have, WrestleMania, the main event of WrestleMania, what I think it should be is I think you should get the full, 1, 2, the slow 3 count. I want to hear the hand hitting the mat. I want to hear the audience counting. I want that long, drawn-out 3 count. I don't want what we got. I don't want it to be like that at all. So I think the end of the match was really messed up. And I think the end of the match could have been a lot better. If it was me, I would have had Becky beat Rousey clean, pin or probably a pin, and I would have had or maybe even a tap out. It depends on Rousey if she wants to tap out or not. Some people are weird about that. And if you plan on having Rousey for the future, then you probably don't want to have her tap out. I want to save that for later. But if she hits a Beck-sploder off the top turnbuckle into another Beck-sploder, she rolls up Rousey, and you get that 1, 2, 3 actual moment. I think it puts a beautiful bow on Becky Lynch's ascension, and fantastic finish to a fantastic match. And Probably a 5-star best match of the night by far. But the ending was so bad and so confusing. I was on Twitter for a long time after WrestleMania seeing what the deal was. Was it messed up? Was it botched? And that's not the reaction you want people to have. You don't want people to have that reaction. You want people to have like, hell yeah, that was such a good moment, such a feel-good moment. I freaking loved it. That's the feeling I had. I was in the building for Daniel Bryan when he beat Randy Orton and Batista. I had that feeling of, hell yeah, we did it. We did it. Finally, Daniel Bryan completed his quest. I did not have that feeling with Becky Lynch. I had the feeling of, what the fook just happened? I need to go check on Twitter to see if it was a botch. I need to go check on Twitter to see what the dirt sheets are saying. And it takes away from what Becky Lynch did. Overall, I think this WrestleMania will be kind of infamous. I think this will be the WrestleMania that shortens the rest of WrestleManias. I don't think we'll ever see a 7.5-hour show again. I think it's pretty widespreadly agreed upon that it was way too long. And it's just impossible for them to expect people. I was sitting on the couch eating pizza. And big shout out to my guy Fred. He's part of the group we watch every pay-per-view with. He ate 12 pieces of pizza. He ate half a Pizzone, 4 Sprites, and a bunch of brownies and apple pies. So unbelievable performance from him. And if you don't have someone at your house show or your house party that's going to eat the most pizza and put on for their city, then you're doing it wrong. So big shout outs to my guy Fred. But I'm sitting on the couch eating pizza and I was exhausted. In the crowd, it's brutal. WWE has got to shorten the show. They have to shorten the show. I'm telling you. So I think this will be the show that does that. I think a lot of the show was filler. A lot of the show was just lost. I don't remember the Randy Orton match very well. I don't remember the tag matches very well. I don't remember, the Bobby Lashley Finn Balor match was just a squash. Rey Mysterio Samoa Joe, just a squash. All those matches, totally lost because it was so long. I remember bits and pieces of some of the matches, but it's just too much. Too many matches, too much filler. The Roman Reigns Drew McIntyre, don't remember that match at all. Couldn't tell you the finish. And I watched every second of the show. Have to get rid of all this. The finish of the main event puts a black eye on the show as well. Rollins and Lesnar ending in 5 minutes. Kofi and Bryan, the two main men's titles being decided before 8:30 was kind of weird. It's quick and it's knee-jerky, but I would put this show in the bottom 3 WrestleManias of all time. I don't like to compare WrestleManias before WrestleMania 14 because that was a different WWE. They didn't have a Titantron. They didn't have really theme music. They didn't have like promos and video packages. So I like to go from WrestleMania 14 to now. Is kind of how I rank them. I mean, you can't rank WrestleMania 1. You can't compare WrestleMania 1 with WrestleMania 30. You know what I mean? But since WrestleMania 14, I'll have to go back and do a proper rating. But I would say this is at least a bottom 3 show. So overall, whole show probably gets a C from me. Just a flat C. Bright spots was the women's match, not the finish. Kofi Bryan and Triple H Batista. And Triple H Batista was a B minus at best. So I'd say a flat C for the show. Not great by any means. Pretty damn bad, to be honest. And there's a lot to be desired. But that is the end of one wrestling season, moving into the next. So it's going to be really exciting to see what WWE does. And hopefully with Lesnar out of the picture, we get more of a true WrestleMania build for 36 in Tampa.